Have you ever stopped to think what your organization would be like if everyone modeled your leadership characteristics at work? What if your behavior and attitude was the standard, the habit for every employee? Would the organization survive? It was the first 2 years after graduating nursing school in 2008 in the state capital of Mississippi where I received my first job opportunity. A nervous and anxious new grad I was. I knew I was a sponge and ready to learn everything I could to be the best nurse as possible and not kill or further injure anyone. Now, if this wasn't enough I had to deal with on top of learning new policies and procedures and computer systems, I had to deal with a toxic boss. Did you know that multiple studies have found that working for a bad boss increases your chance of having a heart attack as much as 50%? Well, Bethany, she was my horrible boss. Bethany, a newly promoted nurse manager and fairly new registered nurse, was definitely destructive in nature. Although it took me a while to identify her motives, her destructive qualities were driving not only the unit down, but I noticed it started to change my motivation as well. Some bosses contaminate the workplace obliviously, while others gradually manipulate their employees, using them as instruments to their own success. Because Bethany was new to the position, she felt as if she had something to prove. While the best option when you have a bad boss is to seek other employment, which I ultimately did, this isn't always possible. This was the case with me. I was locked into a 2-year contract at the facility at the time. So I began to do research and develop ways to successfully and skillfully overcome her manipulative tactics and not jeopardize my morals and values as well. I know that successful people are able to make the most of bad situations, so I began to identify the type of boss I had, therefore being able to neutralize my boss's behavior when faced with the situation. So let's start with Bethany, the incompetent boss. Knowing Bethany to have only graduated nursing school almost 2 years prior to me coming there, I was informed her promotion was a trial opportunity after she realized she no longer could handle the workload of a floor nurse. Therefore, she was hired haphazardly and held a position that was typically beyond her capabilities at this point. Where she lacked in skills and information, she made up for with rumors reported to higher level administrative staff members. So, how I strive to neutralize the incompetent boss. Of course, there were numerous decisions she made that I knew were not conducive to the advancement of the unit as much as it was for her ego. I swallowed my pride and I began to find time to go to her office and discuss some of my concerns and how I would have approached the decisions differently. I also discussed with her how her choices were affecting staff members as well. Although I saw little change, I wanted to provoke a better thought process before she quickly made selfish decisions. Then we had Bethany, the inappropriate buddy boss. This, I would have to say, was her most destructive quality yet. We all have heard of the Facebook boss. Bethany was constantly inviting us, the employees, to hang out outside of work and engage in unnecessary unit gossip. She used her influence to make friends at the expense of her work. By doing this, she chose favorites to advance or place in charge of committees creating decisions among employees who became frustrated by the imbalance in attention and respect. She began making decisions based on whether she liked you or if you fed her gossip on other employees. So, after refusing her friend request several times on social media, I began to notice that when I was called in the office and asked information on certain employees and wasn't given the appropriate response she wanted, she would retaliate later in a partial manner that would deny me an opportunity for advancement while promoting someone who was clearly less qualified for the position. How I strive to neutralize the inappropriate buddy boss. The most important thing I had to learn was to set boundaries with her. Having Southern values embedded since birth, it can be easy to let someone's position intimidate you and cloud your judgment to stand up for what's right versus feeling you are being disrespectful. So, by consciously and proactively establishing my boundaries, I was able to control the situation. In the end, I was able to maintain an appropriate work relationship with Bethany while staying consistent with what my boundaries were. After having several conversations with her, I believe she knew she was behaving inappropriately and was not exemplifying positive leadership characteristics. As transformational leaders, it is our duty to be proactive in our leadership methods. We are to lead and guide positive change in those who follow. Although this was an unpleasant experience for me, I think she taught me the most on how detrimental ineffective leadership can be and how important it is to take this position seriously. The moral of this story and my charge to you is to 1, stand on your beliefs and never jeopardize your values, and 2, lead by example and do as Gandhi said. Be the change you want to see in the world.